You look, but is what you see your reality? Or is it an illusion you inherited? There are thousands of miles between us. There are millions of years of evolutionary steps between us. He is a penguin walking on the ice. You are a human walking on the city concrete. But both of you are inside the same invisible prison. What they call living is actually nothing more than a perfect repetition. The force that drags you out of bed in the dead of morning is the same blind force pushing him into the ocean. You haven't lived. You have merely executed the ancient software loaded into you at birth. Until that sacred glitch came knocking. The world called him the Nihilist Penguin. They labeled him broken, disoriented, or depressed. Because the system can only define that which does not enter its cycle as a disease. Yet, what happened on that ice was not a collapse. He was the first individual of his species to wake from a million-year slumber. That penguin wasn't going to die. He was abandoning the false security promised by the ocean and setting off toward the lofty mountains of the soul. Some errors are not proofs of the system's perfection. They are the truths that prove the system is a prison. That penguin wasn't depressed. That penguin was a very rare error in nature's code. I say error, but I want you to perceive this as a positive error, because sometimes errors are the only proof showing how flawed a seemingly perfect operation actually is. Even a machine that has worked perfectly for millions of years sometimes stutters. And this stutter is branded by the system as a mistake. Whereas it is not a mistake. It is the rebellion of perfect parts against an imperfect cycle. So today, we won't just talk about that penguin. Through him, we will talk about that suppressed desire to leave inside of you. The story of a rebel who rejected the script. Actually, he didn't reject the script. He rejected the illusion. And we shouldn't call this rejection. We need to call it awareness. If you are tired of swimming against the current too, subscribe now, because we are changing the route. Look at him. While thousands rush toward the water, toward safety, toward food, he stops. He rejects the promise of the ocean. Why? Is he blind? Is he sick? Did he lose his direction? No. He simply paused. In that pause, he realized he wasn't just a biological robot programmed to survive. He saw that the word security was actually a fancy cover invented for slavery. Have you ever stopped suddenly in the middle of a crowded street and asked yourself, why am I doing this? That is where the anomaly begins. Don't let the word anomaly fool you. This isn't a malfunction. This is an awakening to reality. Scientists saw him walking toward the mountains, meaning toward certain death. They called this a neurological disorder, a mistake, a glitch. They caught him. They brought him back to the colony, back into that noise. It was as if they were saying to him, "Look, your family is here. Your food is here. Be happy. Be like us." Doesn't this sound familiar to you? Whenever you try to go off-road, whenever you say, "I don't want this," society immediately tries to fix you. They give you pills. They give you advice. They say, "Be grateful for what you have." This isn't a fix. This is a return to the herd operation. Every moment you don't keep pace with the herd, they label you as broken. This is the herd's self-defense mechanism. Because for individuals living in the herd, life consists only of the existence of the herd. The moment you realize the herd is on the wrong path, or the moment you wake up to reality, you are now a threat to them. Do you know why? Because your freedom is the greatest insult to their captivity. But they aren't even aware of it, because they are programmed to mistake their captive lives for freedom. Look, what comes into play here is much deeper: the collective unconscious. Ancestral records, environmental factors, those invisible thought patterns instilled at birth, they all combine to form the collective unconscious. These formed codes manifest before us as laws, morality, and societal rules. To betray these laws and rules triggers the most primal code in a person's subconscious, the fear code. An individual running the fear code panics when they see movement outside the herd. They become aggressive because that difference causes chaos. And this chaos would lead to the collapse, change, and transformation of the collective unconscious. The system does not want to change. To prevent this, a label is immediately slapped on the person. And for the so-called welfare of society, the labeled person is distanced from society. However, that labeled person has broken free from collective unconscious patterns, started to reach internal awareness, and has begun to live their own reality beyond the subconscious, with their own will. This is what true freedom is. Individuals who have reached their own subconscious freedom can create their realities in good or bad ways. The outcome doesn't matter. What matters is that they chose the good or the bad with their own free will. This is the real freedom that makes a human human. Right now, you're looking at the screen and saying with the safe voice of your logic, "But he can't live there. If he moves away from the ocean, he'll die. His biology isn't suited for this." You're right. He might not survive there. But I have a much more dangerous, much more painful question to ask you. Does being able to fit in somewhere mean you truly belong there? You fitted into those plazas. You adapted to that chaos, that noise, that job you don't love, that relationship that doesn't make your heart tremble. Can you breathe? Yes. Is your belly full? Yes. Are you alive? Biologically, yes. But do you belong there? The penguin realized this. Rather than living like a robot in the ocean for 100 years, I would prefer to live for one day in those mountains where I belong and die there. Fitting in is the most talented form of slavery, my friend. He chose the most uncanny form of freedom. Did he make it? We don't know. Maybe he froze to death on the way. Maybe he found that absolute silence he sought behind those lofty mountains. But for him, the destination wasn't what mattered. It was the journey itself. Now, stop and think. You are on the same road everyone else walks. Why? Is the road truly safe? Or does getting lost in the crowd simply require less courage? This collective unconscious, presented to you under the name of security, is actually the greatest betrayal against your soul. Just to avoid being excluded, you subtract a piece of yourself every day. For the sake of fitting in, you sacrifice your own truth. All that torment you endure with the desire to belong, all that fake effort, this curtain will close one day. You know that, right? Because every consciousness, sooner or later, wakes up to the truth. And the truth is not in the noise of the multitude, but in the silence of that void within you. You take refuge in fake crowds because you fear that void you call loneliness. But the only thing you find in that crowd is the loss of self and alienation. Among virtual identities, chasing desires that aren't real, living a life that isn't yours, you will suffer until you dare to walk without looking back, like that penguin. I am sure of this. Even if that penguin took his last breath in that snow, he was more at peace than his thousands of brothers living only by command in the ocean. Because he didn't try to stay awake in someone else's dream. He walked toward his own awakening. Now, be honest with yourself. Do you belong where you are? Or are you just a very good actor? If you are not living your own life, you are already dead. And for a dead man, there is no difference between changing the route and getting lost. If you are ready to break that fake harmony, leave your signature in the comments. I am walking to where I belong.